With these in mind, here are some points to consider when interacting with PWDs. Mobility impairment. Mobility impairment refers to conditions that limit a person's coordination or ability to move. Tip number 1. When talking with a wheelchair user, attempt to converse at eye level as opposed to standing and looking down. Tip number 2. Allow them to set the pace when walking or talking. Don't sound condescending. Tip number 3. A wheelchair is part of a PWD's personal space. Do not lean or put anything on the wheelchair without the user's permission. Tip number 4. Avoid staring. PWDs also value their privacy. Sometimes they are conscious of their impairments. When this happens, try a warm smile and initiate a friendly conversation. Tip number 5. The sense of touch, like a pat on the back or a handshake, speaks volumes and assures the PWD that you do not consider them untouchable. Tip number 6. Do not step on the push ring of a wheelchair or shake the same. Wheelchair users put their hands on this part of the wheelchair in order to move. As earlier stated, a wheelchair is part of a PWD's personal space. Tip number 7. Ramps and other accessibility features are there for a reason. Do not put anything that may obstruct mobility. This includes not blocking ramp pathways or occupying parking spaces reserved for PWDs. Tip number 8. Ask before giving assistance. PWDs value their independence. Do not assume that they will always need help, and if they say yes, listen to any instruction the PWD may give. They are in the best position to know what kind of assistance is needed. Tip number 9. If you should assist, take utmost care, especially for wheelchair users with weak or paralyzed limbs. Ensure both feet are placed properly on the footrest before moving to prevent dragging or twisting. Tip number 10. Take extra care when pushing over humps, inclined roads, or stony or bumpy pavements. Accidents can happen, and the PWD may end up falling from the wheelchair in these situations. In a steep downward incline, better to face the opposite direction. Tip number 11. Avoid hitting the legs of the person in front of you. At the same time, it is best to give way when you realize that there is a wheelchair user behind you. Tip number 12. Avoid turning the wheelchair around rapidly. The sudden turn may cause disorientation or dizziness.